What's your no one will ever believe this true story? Just posted about it, but the worst date of my life. Back when I was single and on apps, I matched with this guy and he's super cute. He had a shirtless mirror selfie, which was usually a hard pass for me, but he seemed sweet, nerdy, so I talked to him. He tells me how he's really worked on his body because he was heavy growing up and really awkward with women. I'm thinking, he doesn't realize he's hot. Anyway, I'm homesick that week and bored, so we message a lot and even FaceTime, and he's quirky but interesting and kind of funny. He seems to be pretty smart. He's working for a biotech firm and applying to PhD programs. He tells me about how he has a daughter back home in Illinois, that she was the result of a one-night stand with a friend, that the friend didn't tell him he had a daughter until she-daughter was 5, and that he barely gets to see her because she's being raised by the mom's friend. We wanted to meet soon. I disliked talking too much before meeting, but like I said, I was sick, and I agreed to a late movie because it was midweek and neither of us had a ton of time, and we'd talked so much already, I kinda just wanted to be physically in the same room to see if there was any chemistry. We met at the theater, had a couple of drinks at the movie, and it was fine, and I was attracted. Second date is okay, but I'm feeling a little off. Something just feels funny, and I'm thinking this isn't gonna be more than a friends thing. We end up going to his place to watch Blade Runner, and I'm uncomfortable within the first couple of minutes. His apartment has weird vibes, like super disorganized, and he's hung an old beach towel on the wall as a decoration. WTF? We sit down and start the movie, and I'm getting more and more uneasy. He leans over to kiss me, and I kiss back for a second, but then tell him I'm not ready for that, and can we please slow it down? He says that's fine, and stops the movie. I look at him like, He then proceeds to tell me he's in love with me, he's dumped his longtime fiancé who lives in Illinois to be with me, and that he would like us to move in together as soon as possible and try to have a baby. I think he's joking at first, but quickly realize he isn't. He asks me if I will say I'm his girlfriend out loud, which I do, because I think about true crime I watch and don't want him to murder me. I feel like I show him I'm scared. He's going to freak out. He then asks me if I'm ovulating right now because it turns him on. I fake yawn and tell him I'm exhausted and it's a work night and I really want to see him tomorrow, so I'm just going to go home and get rest. He looks totally crestfallen but says, "Okay, but before you go, will you do me a favor?" At that point, I think I'm about to be murdered. I say, what is it? He asks, "Will you stand in front of a mirror with me so that I can see how beautiful we look together?" Absolutely terrified at this point. I walk toward his room, stupidly, but I'm just trying to placate him because my gut feeling was that he was likely not a murderer, just insane. We walk into his room and it is a disaster. Piles and piles of clothes everywhere. We stand in front of the mirror briefly, and then I say I really have to go, grab my bag, and refuse his offer to walk me to my car. I then straight up run to my car. I got home and checked my phone, and there are several video texts of him touching himself, which were absolutely horrifying. I shudder thinking of them. I now realize that the reason he isn't in his daughter's life is probably because the mother realized he was disturbed, and she had a very good reason to keep him in the dark. I get nauseated just thinking about him. I quit dating for a while and never put myself in another situation like that again. What's your no one will ever believe this true story? I am one of those people who goes superhero on adrenaline. I'm an unathletic female. Two quick stories. About 8 years ago, I was paying in a shop when I heard a loud crash. I looked outside and saw a car wreck. A car had hit another and pushed them into a big pole that held power lines. I took off running to the scene. The pole was broken and started to fall onto the car. Power lights were starting to droop toward the car. The driver inside was hurt and dazed. The door was dented a bit at hip height, and all doors were locked. The driver was bleeding from their head and could not unlock the doors. The power lines drooped lower. I dug my fingers into the crack where the door closed and began pulling. I bent the top of the door with my bare hands. I called an onlooker over to help me pull. I was able to get an arm in to unlock the door. Then the onlooker and I were able to force the door open and get the man out before the power lines touched his car. Then I went over to the other car and found a stunned, injured teenage boy standing there, dizzy and tottering. I picked him up and carried him to the curb and sat him down to wait for help. He was about 6 feet tall. At this point, I was 36 and very out of shape, a mom to a toddler. Needless to say, I was so sore the next day. Second story. In college, 2 townies sneaked into my girls-only dorm and crept into the shower room on my floor. I was just coming in for the night, and I heard a girl scream. I saw the teenage boys running away. Without thinking, I dropped everything and chased them. What was I going to do if I caught them? No clue. But I was on their tail. They got on a bike and sped off together, surprisingly fast. In chunky-heeled loafers, I managed to catch up to them and chase them across the entire campus, telling them off the whole way and taking swings at them. Didn't land any. I stopped chasing when they were off the campus. Then I walked back to my dorm and gave security descriptions of the peeping toms. The next morning, the dean of students called me to thank me for protecting the other student who had been in the shower, getting peeped at. AITA for ruining a child's life. Today, I started talking to an American mother. While in A&E, her child was interested in the artwork I have on my leather jacket, as it's pretty colorful. The mother mentioned that her daughter's name was Grain, so I assumed for a while that she was another mother who wanted something special to call her child. I remarked that it was a unique name, and that I'd never met anyone called Grain before. She told me that she's named after her great-grandmother, and that it's an Irish name. At this point, the alarm bells are ringing in my head because I've realized that the kid is called Grane, generally pronounced as Gronu, or thereabouts. I tried to be very tactful, and I was like, Irish has such an interesting alphabet. How is her name spelled? Irish names can be tricky. The kid is called Grain, not Grain. My partner, who has studied Ireland's political history as part of their dissertation, and also the Irish diaspora and its culture around their university city, is stuck somewhere between stifling a laugh and dying of embarrassment on her behalf. So I come up with what I thought was a very positive reply. I said, an old school name and a more modern pronunciation. I think that's a great way to pick names. I would like to point out that I do not like the name Grain for a child, nor do I like the way the pronunciation was butchered, but I was trying to be tactful and positive. She asked what I meant, and I said, well, in Ireland, they typically pronounce it like Gronier. Her face went red and said that I shouldn't have said that the pronunciation was wrong in front of the kid, because now she's going to grow up knowing that her name is wrong and feel bad about it. I apologized for causing offense, and restated that it's a lovely name in both ways, and a fantastic nod to her heritage. I said that I'm sure her great-grandmother would be thrilled to be honored by her name being used. I was throwing out just about every positive reinforcement that I could think of, but, to be frank, she was pissed off. She told me that I ruined her daughter's self-esteem, and that her life was ruined by me saying that her existence is wrong. I didn't say that, by the way. I said that her name was pronounced atypically. Gran, for context, was around 2 years old and completely unbothered by the conversation until her mother got angry at me. She was just looking at the pictures on my jacket. The conversation was maybe 5 minutes long, but I managed to ruin this kid's life. Hindsight says I should have kept my mouth shut and waited for somebody else in this city to say something. ETA for controlling my wife's free time? My wife and I are in our early 40s with a couple kids, so our lives are pretty busy. We try our best to give each other one night a week to ourselves, our free time to unwind or pursue solo hobbies or whatever. When the weather is nice, my wife often likes to go hiking. Sometimes with her sister, sometimes with our dog, sometimes by herself. If she's going hiking, I ask her to let me know where she's going and roughly when she'll be home. I want to know, so in case something happens, I know when to be concerned and where to start looking. She's grumbled about it a little bit before, but it's mostly never caused any issues until a couple days ago. She had her free time night on Monday and told me she was hanging out with her sister. Tuesday morning, I asked how her sister was doing and if they had fun. She told me everything was good, and they had a good time hiking together, I said something like, "Hey, please remember to let me know where you're going and when you'll be home if you're going hiking," and she blew up at me. She said she's so tired of me trying to control her free time, and that it's not fair of me to try and micromanage what she does and where she goes when she never does that to me. It devolved into an argument from there, and we're both still pretty annoyed about it. From my perspective, it's not about controlling her, it's about safety. She's out in the woods, sometimes after dark, sometimes by herself. She isn't always in areas with cell phone coverage. I worry if she gets hurt or lost or something else happens to her, I wouldn't have a clue where to send help unless she tells me where she's going to be. She argues that she doesn't ask for that kind of information from me when I'm having free time, but I'm not doing activities that involve the same sort of risks. Am I the asshole for wanting to know where she is and when she'll be back when she's out hiking? AITA for calling my mail ill-mannered for going through my suitcase and criticizing my bikini high. My husband and I got married in June, and we're about to board the plane to our honeymoon. We've been with each other for almost a year and a half. Last night, my in-laws were at our place to wish us goodbye before we went for our honeymoon. They live half an hour away. She was asking me to put some vitamin tablets as well, and offered to put in my suitcase. This is where it may have been my fault. First, I said, "Thanks, I'll put it." She said it's okay, she can put it. And I said, "Okay, you can put it in the inner zipper." Turns out she actually went through the clothes, and she came across a fairly revealing bikini I had bought for this occasion. She asked me if I was really planning on taking this along. I kind of lost my cool because I was embarrassed and said, "Please don't go through our private stuff, it's rude and ill-mannered." She then said, "A honeymoon doesn't have to mean that I wear revealing clothes on public beaches. We're Muslim, and she's a bit more conservative, I guess." I said our relationship and our honeymoon is our own, and not for her to comment on. It might also be relevant to mention that my husband and I never told our families that we were in a physical relationship while we were seeing each other before our marriage, just that we were meeting up. My mom knows, though. My dad doesn't, or at least I don't think so. Don't think either of his know. So, my point is, my mother-in-law has a misplaced idea of mine and my husband's relationship. She was very affronted by what I said, and said I'm the one who didn't have manners, that all she wanted to do was help. My husband talked to her in private, and tried to explain that I felt violated even if she meant well. The mood had soured, and my in-laws wished us a good trip, and left soon after. My husband said I shouldn't have let her near the suitcase at all if this was the case, and that while he had spoken to her about boundaries, I shouldn't have reacted without thinking. We decided to not let this affect our honeymoon, and we didn't talk about it again. But it was just on my mind right now. While he left to get us something to eat, I thought I'd quickly as if I was TA, and if so, maybe I'll admit it, to get our honeymoon off to a clean start. Don't forget to like and subscribe. AITA 31F for recording my daughter when she was crying and sending it to her father. 31M. It's a long story, but a month ago I found out her dad has been cheating on me with a coworker. We've been together for 9 years and we have 2 daughters together, 3 and 6. Since I caught him and called him out, he's hated my guts. He hardly comes home. One of these coworkers has turned into a girlfriend. He spends a lot of time at her house. I'm home all day with our girls, and our eldest has been struggling. She misses her dad, and she tells me all the time. Daddy is mad at me, and that's why he doesn't come home, or something along those lines. Sometimes she gets really upset and cries. I'll admit that there have been a few slip-ups where I don't always speak kindly about her dad, but 98% of the time I speak as kindly as I'm able to. I reassure her that none of this is her fault, and that we don't get along, and that I'm the reason he doesn't want to be home. I have never once insinuated to the kids that they hold any responsibility for what's happening. Every time I bring this up to him, he calls me a liar. I tell him that the kids are upset that he's never here, and that they're taking it personally, but he doesn't believe me, then proceeds to call me names and break me down. Tonight was like most nights. He was at the new girl's house after he got angry at me for asking him to stick around here a bit and help me with some things. A few hours later, my eldest daughter starts getting upset over something, and it turns into, "Dad hates me." I immediately start trying to console her, but I also press record on my phone so that I can send him proof of the damage he's doing. It's about a 20-second clip of her crying and being upset about how he always spends time at his friend's house, but never here. I send it to him and he goes absolutely ballistic. He calls me a crazy evil bitch, sadistic, a horrible witch. He says I put these ideas in her head. This is why he doesn't want to be here, because I put ideas in our kids' heads. I'm tired of him calling me a liar. He cheated and then just left me here to deal with the aftermath while he gets this fun new girlfriend. I'm on 4 different medications to help me from completely losing my mind. I've had to call a crisis line twice. I'm in such a bad space. And he just left me here with the kids, with absolutely no support. They have questions and they want answers, and I'm trying so hard to handle this with grace, but I'm such a mess. It's so unfair that he's not here to answer for his actions and that I'm a liar when I tell him what's happening. Then I'm evil and sadistic when I prove it to him. So am I, AITA. AITA for refusing to pay my friends back for dinner. For context, myself, 2 other guys, and 3 girls went out to eat at a steakhouse today. Not a date type of thing at all. Simply grabbing food after hanging out. The 2 guys both got 16-ounce steaks, while I opted for a more modest 8-ounce. The girls all got food as well as alcohol, which we all know runs pretty expensive at restaurants. When we were finished eating, the waiter came over and asked if we wanted split checks. Before anyone could think about it or consult, my one friend immediately said, "Nah, just 1 check." The girls looked pretty shocked, and I just looked over with a WTF dude kind of face. The other friend is kind of shy and just went along with what the first guy said. The tab came out to be $164, and the guy who opted for 1 check didn't even have enough funds on his card to pay for it. So the other guy paid, and we would Venmo him back. Even after this, the girls insisted on paying us back for the food, and were pretty firm about it. But guy number 1 continued to shut them down and kept saying, "Nah, we got it. It's nighttime now, and he's demanding me to Venmo $55 to cover my share of the tab." I explained how it wasn't fair that he essentially volunteered me to pay for their food. I got the least expensive meal out of the 6 of us, and yet I'm paying as if I ordered half the menu. I'm getting shit for it and being told to just suck it up and pay. Oh, and by the way, we're all college students. Personally, I'm paying back loans as we speak and working part-time. I intentionally order smaller meals at restaurants and rarely go out. Now I'm expected to just throw $55 out the window for no reason. AITA? AITA for telling my friend to stop watching TikTok? I, 41 million, have a friend, 21F, who I've known since 2023. We met on a Discord meme server and proceeded to become the best of friends. We met up IRL for the first time last year, and since then have visited each other a couple of times. However, lately, her attention span has been notably decreasing. On her last visit to my apartment, she was watching TikTok on my couch and was laughing really loud. I came over to investigate what she was laughing at and saw an AI-generated image of a shark with 3 legs. I despise AI art, so immediately I began fuming on the inside. I calmly asked her, "What's so funny about this?" She showed the screen clearly, and the video was just a still image of that shark with a nonsensical audio playing in the background. I asked her what this was, and she said it was Italian brain rot. I snapped at her and went on a full-blown rant. "So this is the kind of stuff you TikTokers enjoy? You call me cringe for enjoying Reddit, but then laugh at this? You are ridiculous." She began getting angry too and said there was nothing wrong with finding this funny. But then I put my fist down. "If you want to stay in my house, number TikTok." Upset, she put away her phone. The next day, her mother messaged me, saying I was an a-hole to her and that I needed to apologize. Reddit, AITA, AITA, for refusing to let my roommate's boyfriend basically live with us without paying rent. I 23F, live with my roommate Kelsey, 25F. We've been friends for a while, and up until recently things were fine. We signed a year lease together, split rent and utilities 50-50, and agreed on basic house rules: no long-term guests, clean up after yourself, respect each other's space. The issue is Kelsey's boyfriend, Mark. He started staying over a couple nights a week, which I didn't mind, but in the last 2 months it's basically turned into him living here. He's here 5 to 6 nights a week, he showers here daily, eats the groceries we buy together, and even leaves his laundry in our machines. He's using our Wi-Fi, electricity, and water, but he doesn't pay a dime. I brought it up to Kelsey, and she got super defensive, saying, "Well, he's my guest. I shouldn't have to ask permission for him to be here." I told her a guest is someone who visits occasionally, not someone who's essentially moved in. If Mark is going to live here, he needs to contribute to rent and utilities. She accused me of being controlling and said I'm just jealous because I'm single. I told her this isn't about jealousy, it's about fairness. I didn't agree to subsidize her relationship. Last week, I finally gave her options. Either Mark starts paying a fair share, or he has to limit his stays. Kelsey blew up and said I was being unreasonable, and now she's giving me the cold shoulder around the apartment. Some of my friends think I should just let it go because it's not worth the drama, but others say I'm right to stand up for myself. I feel like I'm being gaslit into thinking I'm the bad guy here. So, AITA for putting my foot down about my roommate's boyfriend basically freeloading? Thank you so much for watching my speed build and listening to Reddit stories with me. This is the Morris family running their own little family farm. You can find it in my sim gallery and download it for yourself at OFC Lizzie. It has been playtested and gives me 2010 farmhouse. Have a great day. Don't forget to like and subscribe.